Hey everyone, welcome to Tony's Time. I'm Tony George. He is Arun Shiva, better known as Indian Cowboy from DocSports.com. Week 15 NFL picks and preview show. We still haven't named the show yet. I apologize for a little bit of a grainy picture here. The internet's not cooperating all that well today, but nonetheless, I look better in clouded form anyway. You know, we want the sharp picture on IC because he's the better looking two of the pair of us here. So nonetheless, Arun, last week in the NFL, I will tell you one thing right now, the over theme has now been ceased in the NFL as the unders managed to dominate last week 10-4 against the spread. Your thoughts on that real quick?
Yeah, I think, teams just have more tape on what everybody else is doing. There's only so many plays you can run. And I think at this point in the season, a lot of the stuff becomes more obvious what teams like to do and like to run and stuff. That's how I've always felt like whenever new quarterbacks come in, it's really tough to play them. Remember the Jaguars had a couple extra quarterbacks. Every time a new quarterback came in, they covered the game. They went into Minnesota, nearly won that game. Against Tennessee, same thing. So it's tough to know tendencies of quarterbacks. But if there's a lot of consistency, then you can kind of prepare for teams as well. So I think, teams are just starting to figure other teams out and what they run. And I've always felt like coaching is everything. You know what I mean? But coaching is everything in the sense that how much you prepare your guys and how well you prepare your guys and how many, certain play. You know how certain coaches will be like, well, we ran that play, put it in the package just for this week, So some coaches will have 5 extra plays or 10 extra plays for this week, but the really good ones might drop in like 15 or 20. And that's why Gus Malzahn, the reason why he beat Alabama as often as he did, even though he's fired now, but is because he had a whole 40 different plays that he didn't show all year long just for Alabama. Think about the creativity of that. So if you're Alabama, you don't know what's coming. And Nick Saban, of course, he'll do his due diligence and go check every single play that they ran for the last 2 years, formations and this and that. But that's what Gus did. He just ran 40 different plays that Saban had never seen all year long, which is funny.
Yeah, it's interesting. You would think that Stepnoski at Cleveland, I know it's been the talk, a horrible bad beat for people that were on Cleveland that end up grabbing the 3 on Monday. We put them out at 1. So, but at the end of the day, you would think that they had enough tape on how to stop Lamar Jackson. He ran through them like a hot knife on butter, like they'd never seen him before. I found that a little bit surprising that he had 100 and some yards in that game.
Yeah, I think the one exception to the rule is quarterbacks who are mobile. Because they just can, and that's why Saban always struggled with. And obviously, Saban's one of the best, if not the best. But the quarterbacks that beat us as Alabama are mobile quarterbacks who the X's and O's don't matter anymore because it's backyard football, which means anything can happen at this point. So you can't game plan for that. If you try to game plan, Saban will beat you. But if you have a mobile quarterback like Cam Newton, beat us. Johnny Manziel, beat us. Deshaun Watson, beat us. Trevor Lawrence, beat us. Those are the guys who are mobile are the ones who beat us.
Yeah, well, this is an NFL show. You sure were gifted a game last week, this week in the SEC Championship of Florida getting their ass kicked and out of nowhere. And so they're going to come in there with nothing to lose against Alabama laying a huge number. That's a real interesting game and some interesting games in college football. Don't forget, folks, DocSports.com, free $60. That little button above my head there. Click the link in the description below. It's championship weekend in college football. And, of course, don't forget we are, as we tape this, 6 days away from the tip-off of the NBA season. And, of course, I had never had a losing season. I've only been at Doc Sports 3 years, but never had a losing season. And, of course, we have a 207 units to the good the last 3 years in the NBA. So I'll take that and get ready for that. And, of course, we've got some crucial games in the NFL as the playoff races heat up this weekend. And last weekend, I thought the Raiders would do a lot more competitive game. They get to host a Thursday night football game here, Arun, against the Chargers, who just invent ways to lose games, have a horrible head coach. And
Las Vegas, my Falcons.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
Well,
don't worry.
I
We're like
I
we're
got to
like the
be.
$50 corner hooker. We're open for
Yeah,
anybody.
I know you are. That's for sure. Um, I would beg to think that Las Vegas is doing what they've done since Gruden's been there the second time around, and that is regress as the season goes along, and you're seeing some of that. Now, granted, the Colts are maybe one of the top 5 teams in the AFC, so that was a tough ball game. There were some tremendous plays by some players in the Colts game that really turned the momentum in the game. The interception against Waller in the end zone, the one-hander, and this, that, and the other. But last time the Chargers gifted, and I mean gifted, the Las Vegas Raiders here. The total in this game opened up at 55, now down to 52 and a half, 53 in places. And Vegas is hanging the hook on the 3 here in what ought to be a pretty tight ball game. Do you find any value with the Chargers on the road with Anthony Lynn as head coach in this ball game here on Thursday?
Well, I mean, you and I both know who the books are rooting for. You know, they're
Yeah.
obviously going to be rooting for the Chargers, and maybe they think that they'll have that momentum going from losing after the Patriots and then meeting the Falcons, and they only lost by 10 to the Bills. But I cannot conscionably, back the Chargers against anybody. And at the same time, you have Vegas, who gave up 44 points in their last game against Indianapolis. And obviously that's going to piss off Gruden. The last time they gave up that many points was 45 to Tampa Bay in that ugly, nationally televised game. But that wasn't his fault because they had so many guys on the line that was out because of COVID. Immediately in the next game, they gave up 6 points to the Browns. So they can shape up pretty quick defensively. They gave up 26 to the Chargers and gave up 12 to the Broncos the following week. They gave up 35 to the Chiefs, and then they laid an absolute egg against Atlanta by 43. But that was something that we expected because they were just hung over from that loss. And this is an absolute must win. You would think in an absolute must win for Vegas, this line would be even like 6.5. I mean, there would have been even money on both sides if they put it at 6.5. People would have still taken, they would have still taken Vegas without blinking an eye. So this is a bit surprising. The problem with taking the under too is that, what if the Chargers are an active dog? If the Chargers are an active underdog, that can push this game over the. Yeah. Did you lose me? Am I still there with you, Tony?
We lost you a little bit. We had a freeze frame. That's okay. This is live video.
Okay.
We're okay.
Gotcha. So
yeah, I know our producer Doug had a heart attack, but hey, Doug, hang on. We got this. Don't worry. He's freezing up. I'm graining. Welcome to Cox Cable. I do think it's a telltale. I do think it's a telltale sign, Arun, that that Las Vegas odds makers could have hung 5.5 or 6 on Las Vegas, and they still would have got all the action. And if they choose to put them out at 3.5 here, I think that's a little bit of a telltale sign of at least what the odds makers are thinking. And the total has dropped.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're trying to make a lot of money. They're trying to get this to a ridiculous amount of people that not only want to just take them on the side, but maybe on parlays and teasers and everything else. So they're trying to crush people with this game on a Thursday night. But I mean, it happens too. It happens. I mean, I could easily see Vegas winning by 7 or 10 or even more than that. I mean, I think it's just one of those stay away type games, possibly. But there could be a lot of value. Sometimes the public wins too. You just can't be scared. Scared money can't make money, right? So sometimes I can totally see why someone would like a certain side here. If anything, maybe I'd lean on the under a little bit here. I think the last time they faced each other, the score was significantly higher, right? Wasn't the total like? I think it was pretty high scoring. So if anything, these two teams are familiar with each other, and if anything, one thing that you can give the Chargers some credit, they did hold the Bills to 27 points. Last time we went to 57 points, but when they face elite teams, they have a tendency to hang in there on the defensive side. But maybe a small lean on the under, but that's about it for me.
Yeah, I can see this. I was looking at the last game here real quick just to get the lines on it. The over and under, where is that at? The over and under was 52.5, where it's sitting right now. And the score was 26-31. So they scored 57 points, if my math is correct. And I'm a Nebraska graduate, so, and I kind of do arithmetic like the Huskers play football, so be careful with that. But nonetheless, sometimes games, second time around, have a tendency, you expect these teams to go at it, score a lot, and they don't. And I have noticed kind of a Jekyll and Hyde with Las Vegas's defense. One week they play like dog shit, and the next week they play great. And I don't put a lot of stock into the Cleveland game only because it was raining and the wind was blowing 45 mile an hour. That was going to be a low-scoring game anyway. But nonetheless, I would lean under in this one here. Saturday, we got a couple of pro games going up against a lot of the college games, Arun. And I really don't have any interest in Green Bay and Carolina. I don't know what to think of Carolina, and I don't feel like laying 9 this late in the season with anybody, no matter how good they're looking. But the Buffalo-Denver game, there's been a significant line movement here. It opened up at Buffalo -5, and now it's 6.5. There's a lot of love for Buffalo in this game, and it was at 48. Now the total's at 50 here. Denver proved they can still play some football last week. I think this is a dangerous spot for the Bills, laying a huge number on the road, especially after a couple of huge games.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I actually lean on the Broncos here. You know how high I'm on Carolina to begin with, and the fact they went into Carolina and won that game was pretty impressive. And this team only lost by 6 to Kansas City before that. So, I mean, this team actually is looking, and they beat Miami too, 20-13. And I know that was Tua and blah, 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 but it doesn't matter. That Miami defense is nasty. And when you face that team, you're not just facing Tua, you're facing their offensive line, their running backs, their defensive line, their special teams, which is really good. So, the Broncos have been a really quiet covering machine lately, 3 of 4. And that New Orleans game doesn't count because they didn't have a quarterback that game. So I think the Broncos look good. I like the fact that the Bills come off that big win against Pittsburgh and San Francisco, and they got New England on deck. I think it's a prime spot for a letdown too. I think people are a little bit too high on the Bills, and if you're the Bills, you're feeling really good about yourself. How do you get up for the Broncos? You don't. So I lean on the Broncos.
Yeah, especially when you got possibly the division on deck next week. I mean, you're really going to be playing for your division, and that's, it is what it is there. I agree with you. I think Denver's the only way to look in that game there. I'm looking at taking the dog there. Can you buy into the underdog role for the Houston Texans here, catching 7 on the road? What an absolute debacle last week at Chicago. I mean, and trust me, I had Houston last week as a big play. I thought Watson had played as good a quarterback as anybody the last month in the NFL. If you look at his ratings, his stats, and I thought that he would shine over Trubisky. They allow Mitch Trubisky to come out on the first drive and go 8 for 8 for a touchdown pass on a 12-play drive and make him look like Kurt Warner in The Greatest Show on Turf. It's Mitch Trubisky with nobody. So an unprepared Houston team last week. A bad call on my part. I always tell it like it is. Very disappointed. That was one of the largest wagers I've made this year personally. But nonetheless, Indy looks like the real deal. They've looked like the real deal all year long. They've taken on they've beaten people they're supposed to beat, and they've beaten them handily. And they really did a number on the Raiders last week. And they're at home here, a total of 51. They're laying a full touchdown here. Probably going to be a huge teaser play this week. Maybe one of the bigger teaser sides, maybe besides Green Bay in the NFL this week, Arun.
Yeah, I mean, I like the over here for a couple of reasons. One, it's interesting because you have a 4-9 team in the symmetrical of it, because you have a 9-4 team here, 2 teams that basically went in opposite directions. Indianapolis beat this team by 6 last time. Indy has covered this game the last 5 times. So Indy's had Houston's number for a while. But you're right, man. Houston was playing phenomenal football. And I think the Texans fall into the category of this team loses to teams they're supposed to beat, and this team shows up against teams they're not supposed to show up against, right? So when they're supposed to do well, they should be good. And when they're not supposed to do well, they do well. So based on that, they're not supposed to do well this week. So I think they'll do well. So I think they come off that horrible loss. I think Crennel needs to show that he can compete against divisional teams, so that he can keep this job. So I think they'll put their best foot forward here. Honestly, I don't think they thought much of Trubisky, so I don't think they prepped for this game much. Like I just think they thought they were going to roll in and win like 28-14 or something, and I think
Yeah.
that's more of Nagy trying to save his job more than anything
Yeah.
else. And I think Nagy put a lot of effort into the game, and I just don't think Houston put a lot of effort into the game. So I think the Houston can be an active dog. I think Indianapolis, their offense has been really, really good lately. I mean, you're coming off a game where you put up 40 plus. They put up at least 26 points in their last 5 games, and they put up at least 30 plus, 34 against Tennessee and Green Bay, 26 against Tennessee, then 26 Houston, 44 against Vegas. They've looked really good on offense. They even put up 41 against Detroit and 31 against Cincinnati. I like the over. I think it's going to be a shootout.
Yeah, well, we're going to go ahead with that. The official free play there. Houston facing back-to-back really good defenses. The way they looked last week concerned me, and I thought with Romeo Crennel, who was an interim head coach for Kansas City, and now he's got the interim job here. Players usually 95% of the time play very hard for Romeo. They really like him. And I was surprised to see, number one, a guy trying to get a coaching gig, did not have his team prepared. And number two looked like the team mid-second quarter threw in the towel. And that concerns me going on the road against a really good team. That's the only drawback I've got there. I really am not high on Houston catching 7 there. I'd rather do the tease with Indy. It's okay. So Houston shows up, Indy wins a 3-point ball game. I'll take it in a teaser.
And Tony, I just want to go on record and say that I lean on the Panthers this week against the Pack. Just because I think the Panthers coming off that bad loss to Denver, I think they were looking ahead to this game. And I think it reminds me of Carolina versus Kansas City Part 2, but insert Green Bay for Kansas City. So I think Carolina gets up for this game and loses by like 5 or 7.
The only play you need to make on Saturday in pro football is a 2-team 6-point teaser. Take his Panthers and take my Broncos. There you go. You got double-digit underdogs over the number 10. What more do you're over 14 in the Panther game? That's line value, ladies and gentlemen. That's nothing comes easy week 15 in the NFL. You saw the look-ahead line in the Minnesota Vikings game against Chicago was 6.5. And this is just a comment. We don't need to break down the game. Now it's sitting at 3.5 for the Minnesota Vikings. You think that's a huge overreaction to Chicago winning last week like they did?
Yeah. Yeah. Because we both think Trubisky sucks. So, it makes no sense. I mean, but at the same time, like, it's amazing that they're both 6-7. Like, it's just so silly because Minnesota should be so much better than this Chicago team, and they're not. I mean, they have an elite running back in Cook. They have an elite, wide receiving with Jefferson. Jefferson's a great receiver, and Thielen's pretty good too. And who does Chicago have? Nobody. Their running backs are all hurt. Their receivers all suck. Their quarterback sucks. Cousins got paid $1 billion. It makes no sense. I mean, talk about value. Nagy has done more with less than obviously a Vikings team that's really disappointed. And the Vikings beat Jacksonville and Carolina. That loss to Dallas just shines through because they should have never lost to Dallas because they beat Green Bay, Detroit, and Chicago. Losing to Dallas really hurt them. And the funny thing is that the Atlanta coach, Dan Quinn, got fired the week before, and if he doesn't get fired, they would have beat Atlanta that week. And then he gets fired, and then Atlanta plays for their new coach or whatever. By the way, Dan Quinn's probably going to be the coach of Arizona at some point, I think. He's reached out to the University of Arizona to be their coach, so that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, just out of principle, I'm staying away from this game because the Bears are a team that I can never figure out. It's just nonsense, and the Vikings are a team that's nonsense too, so I'm staying away.
Yeah, this is a yes or no answer. Are you willing to lay 17 with the Los Angeles Rams against the Jets or anybody, especially the Jets?
So if you would have asked me this 2 weeks ago, I would have said yes. But now the Jets just got crushed by the Seahawks. So now the Jets might be motivated to hang in there against the Rams. But yeah, I'm never afraid to lay this many points. The Jets laid this many points against what was the Chiefs, and the Chiefs covered. Remember?
Yeah.
So it's not. It's not completely impossible. The thing is that the Rams' offense has looked a little bit better of late, and their defense is pretty good too. And I don't think the
Yeah.
Rams have any issue with I mean, the biggest line they laid was 13.5 against the Giants, and they didn't cover. But that was the Giants have a defense, and obviously
Yeah.
the Jets are not good. Um, but yeah, I mean, I would lean on the Rams, and plus, I think Goff wants to improve his offensive numbers too, just from a contract perspective. And this is a good opportunity to do that.
If you can't put up more than they put up against Seattle's defense, and Seattle's defense is not all that good. They've improved since the beginning of the season, but they're not that good. You're going to go backwards against the Rams because they are the real deal, especially on the defensive line. And if you throw errant passes against those guys they've got in the secondary, you are going to be in for a long, long day. And Sam Darnold is going to take a beating in that ball game, a absolute beating. I'll give you this. Everybody blames the quarterback with a bad team. I blame a lot of things wrong with the Jets, but Sam Darnold is one tough SOB. I'll give him that because that kid takes some punishment. And whenever they do make plays, it's 90% on his shoulders. Much like what I thought Carson Wentz kind of got blamed for just a bad setup. But that guy took, 53 sacks and just an ass kicking until they put Hurts in there last week. So, Darnold is better than advertised. Obviously, they're going to go for the number one pick in the draft and he'll be somewhere else. He'll make a nice backup for somebody. Very quickly here, let's talk about two big games, and we'll get everybody out of here. New England and Miami. Miami proved last week against a very good Kansas City team. Kansas City seems to be bored. They've missed 5 straight spreads. I didn't like them last week with that number. A lot of people were on Miami. They got rewarded with that late field goal, whatever the situation was. But the bottom line is a win is a win and a loss is a loss, And at the end of the day here, Miami looking to take out years and years and years and years, maybe decades of frustration against the New England Patriots. Opened up 3 down to 2.5. You're off the fall number of 3 here, Miami at home. Take it on the Patriots. What do you think? You think they get it done?
No, I like the Pats, and I think this is just going. Yeah, and I think this is going to be like the world being set straight for one weekend type of thing. And the only reason is because I think that Tua has not looked that great, and I think what does Bill Belichick do to young quarterbacks, Tony? He destroys them. I mean, look what he did to Herbert. They crushed him 45-0. And I think Bill Belichick has plenty of tape, and he's going to make life hell for Tua. I think Tua will have a much better game the next year against them. I think he'll be much more experienced. I think Tua, and I'm a huge Alabama fan, but I think he'll get a little rattled here. They're going to send so many ghosts at him, to the left, to the right, to up front. They're going to really try to confuse him. Plus, the Patriots played really bad against the Rams, losing 3-24 on national television. They remember that. And this game obviously is more important for the Patriots because they're still in the hunt. They're 6-7. They've got about 3 games left. And if they can win this game and then maybe pull off a miracle against Buffalo, they got the Jets. They can close out 9-7 and head to the playoffs. So they are very much in the thick of things. They just got to finish out 3-0 maybe. And this team put up 45 on the Chargers. Their defense is always there. They beat Arizona, who's a good team. Arizona obviously went into the Giants and won that game. They beat Baltimore. Patriots have closed out. They've won 4 out of their last 6. They come off their worst offensive performance of the year. And I like the fact that Miami, if Miami got crushed against Kansas City, I would think about Miami. But because Miami kind of snuck inside that back door, I don't know if they've got that edge necessarily. I know they have revenge, but I don't think that's going to matter here. Miami lost to Denver, man, 13-20. I'm not saying Denver's bad, but it's these middle-of-the-road kind of things that Miami can lay eggs. They only beat Cincinnati by 19-7. I don't think Miami's looking that good. I actually like the Patriots.
I think you might. I'm going to make a bold prediction. I think you might see Fitzpatrick after halftime. Because let me tell you something right now. Yeah. If there's a prop on that, put it out there. Second of all, I'm going to tell you something about Bill Belichick. Love him or hate him. He's probably the best coach in the NFL, if not the best coach in the NFL. I could argue that with you all day long. But if you faded him, taking a team up against a rookie quarterback, you've lost 85% of the time. Because he has a tremendous, I don't have it, it's like 20-4 or 20-3 or some crazy number against rookie quarterbacks in his career the first time he faced them. Beat the piss out of every one of them. Bear that in mind. And that line moved off 3 early in the week. That's not public money, folks. That's sharp money. Taking that, they'll take that fall number. They'll take that 3. Here's another team that if you don't tease them in a 2-team or 3-team teaser at plus 2.5 up to 8.5, you're out of your mind because they got a real good shot of winning this game. I agree with Arun. Kansas City, New Orleans. New Orleans has not announced whether they're starting Breeze or not. If they do, I think there's going to be some rust there. We're going to see Kansas City probably finally after 5 weeks, this game will have their full attention. They will not be bored and complacent during this football game. Patrick Mahomes coming off a bad game with 3 picks, just 3 picks. I think he'll be sharper. We're going to see this is the best team in the AFC, number 1 seed versus the number 1 seed in the NFC until the loss against Philadelphia last week, which was shocking to me. I know you like the new quarterback in there. They can give anybody a game with a new guy theory. Okay, that's fine. That's proven to be correct. But at the end of the day here, 51.5 is the total. Kansas City -3 at New Orleans here. Total, again, 51.5. I don't think you're going to see a defensive struggle here. I think it's going to be a shootout. I don't care who's playing quarterback for New Orleans, and I think Kamara is going to have a big day, both running the ball and doing wheel routes, speed routes out of the backfield and getting back Kansas City secondary here. Going to be a hell of a football game here. We'll find out who the best team is right now in the AFC and the NFC because pretty much, these number ones are going at it right here. This could possibly be a potential Super Bowl matchup. So it's going to be interesting. I think Kansas City probably has as good a chance to beat them with or without Hill or with or without Breeze. I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference, Arun. Your thoughts?
No, I agree with everything. I think it's going to be I don't think it's going to matter who's going to be the quarterback. I actually think Taysom gives them a better chance than Drew Brees does because he's able to be mobile, whereas Brees is going to be a pocket. And they know what Brees is going to do. Brees, they know what to expect from Brees, but if a play breaks down, and that's why these mobile quarterbacks are so important, if a play breaks down, can you make something out of it? Instead of throwing the ball away, the guy gets like 8 yards, which is there's only so many plays, in the NFL, like 60 plays or 70 plays or something. So when a play breaks down, you can gain yards every time you do it. It's pretty awesome stuff. So obviously, I think what happened with New Orleans was they got their hand caught in the cookie jar looking ahead to this game, and they forgot about Philadelphia. Yeah, and I think that's what cost them. Obviously Vegas is going to be rooting for New Orleans and Kansas City. I think it's good for Kansas City. They didn't close the game out well against Miami. I think that's going to motivate them. Remember, they had a similar -3 or -3.5 line against Tampa Bay, and they lost that cover. So traditionally, Kansas City, when they face really small lines, they haven't been covering lately, like that 3.5 against Tampa Bay. But at the same time, you have a New Orleans team that comes off their first loss after what? They had won, I think 9 in a row.
9.
Yeah, they'd won 9. Yeah, they'd won so many in a row, and now they come off a loss against an Eagles team that they were favored by 7.5. They had covered 5 in a row in the process. I don't want to take a lean on New Orleans. You know what I mean? I think this is one of those teaser opportunities. I think the Saints off a loss is the right motivation. I know you like teasers. I would definitely maybe tease this up to plus 9.5, right, with a 6.5 point teaser. And I would tease it with something else. I think that's where I would kind of go with this game.
Indianapolis for 1. Get them down to -1. Get them down to -0.5. And quickly here, before we close out the show, don't forget, $60 free. Click the link in the description below. Get hooked up. You can put it towards any package, season pass, weekend packages. That gives you 2 weekend packages for free. Sure, click the link in the description below. Tons of free information over there. Here's just one stat on Monday Night Football, which is kind of a dud, because you got the Steelers off back-to-back losses, laying 12.5 right now, which they'll probably just kick the piss out of Cincy. But I just noticed one thing. 99% of the tickets written on the total are on the under 40.5. That was a little bit surprising to me. But then again, they're not expecting Cincinnati to do anything, Arun.
Yeah, no, I think that's right, because Cincinnati hasn't been able to. I mean, they're averaging, I think, 150 yards on offense lately. I mean, they just can't move the ball. They look like a college team right now, and which just goes to show how awesome Joe Burrow was. And Joe Burrow is the real deal. I mean, that guy is seriously the real deal, which is amazing because he was third string at Ohio State. It's like Tom Brady part 2. Nobody thought much of him. But yeah, no, I think that, nobody expects anything out of Cincinnati. And I think Pittsburgh, probably just wants to close shop, win, and move forward and not try to injure anybody. But what a disappointment Pittsburgh's been, huh? I mean, for a team that was 11-0, and then they're not even favored being 11-1 against the Bills. Like, no respect for Pittsburgh. I think people are just like, but that's because their defense is so banged up and so many guys are out for the year. And I just think, at least New England's defense is pretty healthy. And New England's defense, Tony, would be even better if it wasn't for COVID, with those couple guys opting out, Hightower and those guys. So,
right.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's – I mean, one thing's for sure. I think we can agree that Pittsburgh is not going to go – they're not a contender, if you will. And I think that's what we've figured out the last 2 weeks is Pittsburgh's not winning the Super Bowl, obviously. And I think other people are like, well, maybe they can, maybe they can't. No, I don't think that's – even Tennessee could, but not Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and the other thing that on the flip side of the coin of the team they lost to on Monday, Josh Allen has proven to everybody that he's a real deal quarterback, that he is an elite quarterback in the NFL, and he has matured. Instead of running out of the pocket and throwing away down, throwing the ball up for grabs or doing a lot of mistakes that he did the first couple of years, he's really sharpened his skills. And right now, nobody wants a piece of the Buffalo Bills. I can tell you that. I'm a Chiefs fan from Kansas City. Been a Chiefs fan my whole life. I don't want anything to do with Buffalo, not even at Arrowhead. And I know we played them earlier in the year. We took them out behind the woodshed, but that was a long time ago. So interesting games this weekend, folks. For all the winners, get over to DocSports.com. I vow to do better than last week. I always transparent, tell it like it is. It hasn't been my year in the NFL. I just tell it like it is. I'm not in the business of selling picks. I'm in the business of selling winners. And I didn't give you any winners last week, so we'll turn that around this week. Arun, anything big on the horizon for this weekend in college or pro football for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to have a 7-unit selection, part of 8 selections. I usually do 7. I do 8 selections. One of them is 7-unit. The rest of them are all 3 units. So, looking forward to that. I think we'll probably do pretty well. And college basketball is still releasing 3, college ball plays a day, 5 of 7 winning days. Most of the days are 2-1. So, yeah, just the grind. NBA starting back up for us in 6 days. So I know we're excited about that. So,
yeah. Definitely on that. We got $100 off anybody's package in the NBA right now. $100 off anybody's early bird package, and I have a 10% off of that special running. So type in the promo code TGNBA10. Sorry, Arun, I don't have a promo code for you, but at the but I'm making a push there, giving everybody a little extra Christmas juice. So be sure and get over to Docs. Take advantage of that free $60. Thanks for tuning in. Come get some winners this weekend, folks.